Good morning, everyone. Natalie here with Premier Talent Partners for our next edition of our LinkedIn Live series. And I have with me our two guests, which you guys have probably seen before and remember joining us a couple of times ago. But we have Mary and Michelle, who are a part of our people operations team. And they're joining me today to talk through our final and sixth toolkit as a part of our HR in a Box series and resource guide that we have available. So I just want to give a little bit of context for those that may have only seen a couple of our LinkedIn Lives discussing this topic, but HR in a Box essentially is our resource that we have curated and put together for our small startup emerging growth clients who may not have the HR infrastructure internally and have over the years come to us with questions about how do I do recruiting and how do I put together an employee handbook and how do I do onboarding? How do I create a culture? Those are all topics we've already discussed these past, 5 months already. Oh my goodness. So now we are on our last toolkit, number 6, which is offboarding. And offboarding in some cases can be healthy. In some cases it's unexpected, but nonetheless, we all naturally experience when employees offboard with us. So before we jump into that, I did want to briefly reintroduce Mary and Michelle, or let them introduce themselves. Mary, do you want to give a little bit of context about your role here at Premier?
Of course. Yeah. Hi, everybody. So my name's Mary Henderson. I am the Director of People Ops at Premier. I have been here going on, 9 years. So it's been a while, and worked with Michelle closely. I manage and wear the HR hat for the internal staff, so the talent team and the back-end operations, but then also partner with Michelle for the contract workforce and any issues that come up on that side.
Michelle.
Hi, guys. So my name is Michelle Betancourt, and I have been with Premier around 3.5 years now. And like Mary was saying, we partner really closely together. And mostly I focus on all of the HR for our contract employees. So all of our temps working through Premier, all of their onboarding, terminations, all of that.
Awesome. And you both have a very big job with onboarding and in some cases offboarding employees. Premier, definitely, we experience people that come and go without in our organization. It's just a natural part of the process. So no two better ladies than to join me to discuss this topic. I'm going to start with Michelle. I just shared the beginning part of this toolkit, but what I'm going to flip to next is our actual employee offboarding checklist. So Michelle, my first question to you is, what is the benefit of an organization creating and following a thorough offboarding checklist?
Yeah, so I think that one of the main benefits of the checklist is that it really helps keep everyone on the team accountable for their part, within the process. Sometimes with so many moving parts and multiple people involved, it helps make sure that nothing is really missed, nothing falls through the cracks. But most importantly, I think that it'll help ensure that the exiting employee, so whoever's leaving, has a smooth and enjoyable process, similar to when they joined the company initially.
Got it. That's great. Yeah, like you said, keeping everybody accountable and making sure that pieces aren't missed. It could be a variety of different things that are important as part of the process. And we want to make sure that we get everything as much as we can prior to the offboarding on the last day. And then, of course, if there's anything lingering. The next section, is asking more details about the timeline piece, right? Like I just mentioned, there's the week before, if you get that much time, or on the last day, right? So can you shed some light on how Premier goes through this process to work cross-functionally or with cross-departments to make sure that everything gets done within this timeline?
Yeah. So I think, in our case, Premier internally, we have pretty much created this timeline into what we call, our onboarding and offboarding templates. And within that template, it really allows us to assign the different tasks to all of the employees throughout the different departments that are involved within the process. It makes sure, we make sure to include deadlines to all of those tasks as well. So everyone really knows when things need to be completed by. And it ensures that we all work seamlessly together and everything gets completed in a timely manner.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. Next section is going to be discussing the exit interview guide. This is so important. I mean, obviously having a timeline and specific tasks and responsibilities as part of the offboarding is great, but it's also really great to gather feedback, if you can, from that offboarding employee to understand feedback and why, and any thoughts or feelings, any information that they want to kind of part ways and leave us with. So Mary, can you talk us through why we make a point to conduct interviews, specifically at Premier, but why a company in particular should make a point to incorporate this in a process?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, the employee exit is obviously part of the life cycle, right? It's a really important part of the life cycle, and it's a natural part of the life cycle. But I think the main point is to really have these meetings to be able to make a connection, right? Make a really deliberate connection, not only to recognize the contributions, but also to get that important feedback, right? There's just so much feedback that you can get at this time when someone's leaving. So it's important to capitalize on that opportunity, whether it's about your culture or your management practices or your internal communication or processes, resources that you provide, or your healthcare benefits, like really important things that mean a lot to somebody who's going to be joining the company and to the current employees as well. There's compensation, right? That's obviously a big one. Were there any barriers that existed that prohibit you from getting your job done? Work allocation, did you feel like that was spread fairly? Company leadership. So really important to ask all these questions in this meeting. And it's a really great time to be able to get that kind of raw feedback and to ask them, like, was there anything else that we could have done to keep you here? So identifying those, after you have a couple of those meetings, you'll be able to identify any trends and or themes that are happening, right? Each experience is unique. So everyone has a different experience. But once you start hearing common trends or themes, that's when you have to step back and say, okay, so we have some work to do here and really understand how we can grow and evolve. And lastly, I think it's important to keep that line of communication open with this person that's leaving, because you want them to have a good experience, right? It's still part of the life cycle. You want them to have a really good experience. You want to approach it with gratitude, obviously, for their contributions. And also, you don't know when your paths might cross again, right? So maybe this person will be leaving and going to work at a client, or maybe they'll be a vendor, and maybe they'll come back and work for a Premier. We're all about bringing talent back. So rehiring is something that we really encourage and do. So yeah, so those are my little tips on the exit interview.
Yes, I am lucky enough to be rehired. So
Yeah.
that's great because you guys kept like in touch, and great relationship over the years, and no hard feelings when I decided to move on and spread my wings. So that's a great point. It's always great to keep that continued communication open. I was thinking, as you were mentioning, as you do these interviews, you may start seeing common trends and themes. What should we be doing with them, or what does Premier do with the feedback that we receive?
Yeah, so once you identify those common themes, then it's really important to bring those to leadership and come together as the leadership and executive team to really understand what they are. What is the feedback? Where did that feedback come from? Is this real feedback? And then identify the gaps and the breaks, what we call the breaks in the value chain, and trying to tighten those breaks up so you can continue to grow and evolve.
Great. Yeah, so it's one step to actually do the interviews.
Right, exactly.
Next step is to actually assess, what are the common denominators here. And it shouldn't just stop there. You should actually make sure that it's shared with the leadership and that there are some action items or some solutions that come of that information.
Absolutely.
And my last question for you, Mary, this toolkit is a little bit smaller than the rest of ours, so we're kind of blazing through this one really quickly today. But the last question is, what are some things to be mindful of when you're offboarding an employee?
Yeah, so there's so many things. It's obviously a complicated process, but it's an important part of the life cycle. But there's just a lot of things to be considered. There's lots of balls in the air right at that time. So important to know that there's lots of responsibilities that are expected to be happening at the same time, whether that's HR putting together the paperwork, or that's the manager identifying, the coverage and the transfer of knowledge, or the payroll department who's responsible for issuing the final check, the tech, right, getting back the tech equipment in a timely fashion so they can work up into their last day, and still be able to get it back. Maybe they're going on vacation. Like, there's just different scenarios that you have to be really mindful and aware of actually each situation's different. There's marketing, back-end operations. There's so many different departments that are involved and have like really important responsibilities. So I think first and foremost, it's important to have like a well-oiled process, so everybody understands what they need to be doing when. And I think it's essential to be prepared, right? So you need to understand exactly what needs to happen. And you need to have one person that's actually managing this process. So this person understands exactly what's supposed to be happening. And if it doesn't happen, then that person can move the needle forward. So being prepared is essential, right? So exits come, they're unexpected usually. You usually don't get any notice. So you have to be prepared, and have tools and resources like HR in a box on hand, whether that's the exit paperwork, or any other things that you might need, like email communications that you can kind of do a plug and play, because you can't drop everything, right? So you have work to do, and then you have this exit that has to happen, and it's a very sensitive situation. So really important to have those tools and those resources on hand, right? And then I think it's also important to look at it from the employee side. Like Michelle had said, like, the employee life cycle is really important. It can be an intimidating time for employees. It might be the first time that they're going through this process. Not only did they have to share the news that they're leaving with their manager, but now they've got to meet with HR, right? And so you might not realize, but it is an intimidating process for many people. So the more that you can approach this with care and inclusion, I think that's going to be the healthiest way to approach it. And then just making sure that the process, what you're doing, is actually aligned with your core values. So just leading with care and gratitude, I think, is most important.
And the last thing I'll leave with is, when an employee leaves, there's always a end client potential impact. And that doesn't just mean the clients like our paying customers, but let's say, for instance, if they're in an operational role behind the scenes supporting, like our operations team, they support us internally. And so as our employees leave, and let's just say somebody on our ops team left and it wasn't a very smooth process, that has a trickle down effect to the end customer in that scenario, which is us on the talent team. And then us on the talent team, if we leave and it's not a smooth and well thought out process, that has a trickle down effect to our clients, and their experience isn't going to be smooth or the one that we want. And we could potentially lose business, lose revenue. Right. And so I always like to preface that when somebody leaves, it doesn't just impact that one person or that one department or that one manager, but a lot of people can be impacted by it. And so it is so critical to have a thought out and prepared for process. So we hope that you'll take what you need from this specific toolkit and adopt it into your organization. But that is it for our offboarding. And that is actually it for our HR in a Box series as well. All 6 toolkits. I want to especially thank Mary and Michelle and our other internal team members for their hard work on creating this for not only us internally, but for our clients. It has had such an impact, and we actually have a more comprehensive version of this that is available for purchase, and it has more pieces to the puzzle, more details, and there's some extra resources that are available in there. So if you are interested in that, check it out. There's more information on our website, but we encourage you to use what you need and leave what you don't. But if you ever have questions or need some consultation on, okay, how do I implement these things? We're here to help. So thank you for joining us this month, and coming next month, we'll have some brand new client related topics. So thank you, Mary and Michelle. Have a great weekend. It's Friday.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Thank you.